Hello again, everyone. I'm going to continue with some more albums I've picked up in the past month or so. The first is, it's an EP actually, a 12-inch EP, of Bow Wow Wow, The Last of the Mohicans. And Bow Wow Wow were a British spin-off of, I think, Adam and the Ants, which is why they have that kind of Adam and the Ants kind of costume. This is a pretty good record because they do a cover of the Strangelove's I Want Candy, which is a pretty good dance song. David Clayton Thomas, this is his solo album from when he was with Blood, Sweat and Tears. Came out around 1971. This was a radio station copy from CKXM Radio in Edmonton, Alberta. It's a gatefold sleeve. Now, David Clayton Thomas was a star in Toronto before he ever joined Blood, Sweat and Tears. He had a couple of hits in Toronto. Brainwashed was one of them. I think Boom Boom was the other. And he replaced Al Kooper in Blood, Sweat and Tears in around 1969. And he was just a great vocalist. This album was produced by Bobby Clumby, the drummer from Blood, Sweat and Tears. And just coincidentally, I was looking at this. It's a Henry Gross album I picked up. And this was also produced by Bobby Clumby, but this album's from about 1980. Henry Gross had a series of albums in the 1970s that were kind of pop albums. Some of them were very good. And he was, if you see the movie Woodstock, you might see Henry Gross because he was the guitar player in Sha Na Na. And then he went on to his solo career. So when you see Sha Na Na bopping around on the stage in the Woodstock movie, which is one of my favorite movies, you'll see Henry Gross. This is Lawrence Hudd, Canadian album. Lawrence Hudd played every instrument on this album. Has a really nice cover, kind of a homemade folky kind of cover. The hit song off this was Sign of the Gypsy Queen, right here, first song. And it was later covered by Canadian group April Wine, and they had a hit with that song also. And the guy at the record store where I bought this, I was looking for this album for a long time. He told me that Lawrence Hudd has basically disappeared off the face of the earth, and the Society of Canadian Composers, there's royalties and stuff waiting for him to be picked up, and they can't find him anywhere to give him his money or anything. Also notable is the fact that this was engineered by Chuck Britz, who engineered a lot of the Beach Boys stuff in the 1960s. But it was recorded in Toronto, though. Tangerine Dream, double album, Poland, the Warsaw Concert. This is from 1984. Eric Matthews, It's Heavy in Here. I bought the CD of this back in 1995 when it was released, and it's a sub-pop album. I didn't know it was out in vinyl or available in vinyl, but I found it at a record store. And he's been compared to Burt Bacharach in his songwriting. It's kind of low-key singer, songwriter, composer. He plays several instruments. I think he's had 3 or 4 CDs out since then, and he's very good. The Buggles, Adventures in Modern Recording. I picked this up because I like the Buggles album Video Killed the Radio Star, which is very prophetic, around 1980 when that came out. Here's something more traditional. It's the Climax Blues Band, A Lot of Bottle. It's one of their first LPs. The Climax Blues Band started off, they're a British band, late 60s. They became more popular in the 1970s, more commercial, but the early albums are very good blues recordings. They were on Sire Records. This one is a nice find. Caravan, Waterloo Lily. Caravan is a British prog band, part of the Canterbury scene, and this album is very, very hard to find. It's a Canadian copy. It's got quite the inner sleeve. You know, British copies of this album go for $100 or something like that. British or Canadian copies might be easier to find. I don't know if it was released in the States or not. Colosseum 2. Colosseum started off as kind of a jazz rock fusion band, in the early 1970s with the singer. I think Chris Farlow was the vocalist at one time as well. And this album has the guitar player Gary Moore. I have a feeling it's going to be kind of rock jazz fusion. 1977. I like the cover on that too. The Best of Grin featuring Nils Lofgren. Now, Grin was the name of Nils Lofgren's first group. Nils went on to record with Neil Young in the early 1970s. He had a solo career later on A&M Records. And he also was part of Bruce Springsteen's E Street Band later on, I think maybe the late 70s and the 1980s. One of my favorite hard rock bands of the 70s, even the late 60s, was Deep Purple. This is Deep Purple in concert. It's a double album from 1980, and it features the band, the Mark II version of Deep Purple, with Ritchie Blackmore, John Lord, Roger Glover, Ian Gillan, and Ian Pace. And these, it's a double album with BBC recordings, 1970 and 1972. And something I noticed, I put this on, I played this one already, and it's a very long album. Each side is more than 25 minutes long. The total album is 108 minutes and 47 seconds. So you have to turn the volume up, and I think it loses a little bit of bass, so I have to crank the bass up full and turn the volume up to get good sound out of this. But it's a very good album. Something though that's notable about this one is the fact that they don't include Smoke in the Water, you know, their biggest hit. And it's not on this, but you know, if you have the other Deep Purple albums, including the Live in Japan, you'll get that one. Last in this group, The Tourists, Should Have Been Greatest Hits. Now, The Tourists, most people have not heard of The Tourists. It's too bad, because they were very good. And The Tourists were the Eurythmics before Dave Stewart and Annie Lennox went out on their own. They were members of The Tourists. And they had one song that was kind of a hit, I Only Want to Be With You, which is the cover of the Dusty Springfield song from 1964. And it's a very good cover, and I don't think Annie Lennox ever made a bad recording, really. Thank you for watching these.